Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dwarven Tavern. I am Dr. Jeff Goins, your host, once again with another review. This one is the Pathfinder Player Core for the second edition. Retails for $59.99 for a good reason. It's almost 500 pages long. It's 462 pages exactly. So, yeah, that's a big book. It's a big book for the value. Has a lot of stuff in it, which we will talk about in great depth. Hopefully in great depth. I try not to get too deep, but I just can't help myself most of the time. So, let's talk about where we are here with this book. Okay, so this is a basic retooling of the second edition player's handbook, right? And it has a few changes from the second edition player's handbook. This is the second edition, and this is player core, right? So what we have is the book itself. We'll talk about it. Of course, you know the illustrations and the artwork are all top notch. I mean, just start off with that off the bat because it's wonderful. I'm not an enormous fan of Wayne Reynolds, who did the cover, just because he does something with the teeth that I don't like of most creatures, and his artwork is fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but it's just that one little detail that jabs me every time I see a creature with that particular art style, which, you know, that's fine. It's not going to detract from the book at all. So what we have here is the introduction with the character creation, leveling up, which is an issue that I want to talk about. I'm going to talk about later. The kind of an atlas of Galarion and the Inner Sea, and their take on the religion of the world of Pathfinder, their world. Then on page 40, we start getting into Ancestries and Backgrounds. Now, that is a very interesting subject because they decided to change. It from race to ancestry. And I know why, because, you know, that's the way things are going now, and I don't care that much. I mean, to me, it doesn't matter. In reality, there's no such thing as different races if you can interbreed. Race indicates speciation. Speciation is not being able to reproduce from one to the next, and it's just like we humans are. We're not speciated because we can all breed with other humans. Everything else is just culture. And all your phenotype traits like skin tone and height and blah, 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 the list goes on, mostly disease weaknesses or vulnerabilities. You know, that is an ancestry thing, because we are but one race. And, you know, so that being said, you know, I'm sure they made the leap to Ancestries and Backgrounds to avoid, possibly to avoid racial disparity. But I like to think that it is to be more accurate to what it is, because I am of Irish descent. Ireland is my heritage. I'm 100% American, like fourth or fifth, sixth generation American. So my family came over and kind of nested in the Appalachian Mountains from Ireland, like a lot of the Irish did, and that's where I come from. So that's my heritage, right? That's my ancestry, and that's what it is. Has nothing. It doesn't change anything about me, who I am, my DNA, and all that junk. But I do have some ancestral. I do have some ancestral proclivities, I guess, or not. I don't know what you'd call it. Tendencies is the word that I almost fruitlessly searched for. So the ancestries are dwarf, elf, gnome, goblin, halfling, human, leshy, orc. Okay. I don't like goblins. I don't care. I mean, they've got this scrappy do BS going on that irritates me to no end. It's just like the Kinder from Dragonlance, which I don't really care for either. I kill the Kinder when I see them because they are miniature elves that are just rampant thieves. And I don't cotton to that. I do not abide, suffer not the thief. And people have argued, well, to them it's okay, and it's like, well, cutting their heads off is okay to me. So it's just a matter of it's subjective, right? The Leshy are cool. I like the Leshy. Then it covers versatile heritages, which is what strain of are you Beagle or are you Mastiff, or those the Kangles and the Caucasians on the big end of the spectrum, or a Chihuahua. So that's what your heritage is, and those are pretty cool. We'll get into that in a little bit. Then the Changeling, which is that's a thing, right? I mean, and a lot of that is right from my cultural background from Ireland. Then the Nephilim, which they have combined the Aasimar and the Tiefling with as being Nephilim. The Aasimar are, of course, touched by divinity, and the Tieflings are touched by rude people in bad places. So with with that, they and I have no idea why the Tiefling went so crazy, so viral with everybody. I never cared for Tieflings. I mean, they're kind of cool, but not cool enough to mixed ancestry. And that is like your half orcs, your half elves, your halflings. No. The backgrounds, of course, which is your bloodline background. You're a dwarf, but did your people come from the mountains or from the hills, or what have you? Deep underground. And then languages, and then of course the classes are bard, cleric, druid, fighter, ranger, rogue, witch, wizard, that wizard, the witch, the wizard, and that one. Their companions and archetypes, which is pretty cool. Then with skills, skills is very small because they streamlined skills, and somewhat. We'll take a look at that. And then, of course, you've got feats, because you do want to walk around, and equipment, which covers armor, shields, weapons, and gear. Spells, spell list, spell focus, or focus spells, which is like your chosen school of magic. And then the cool thing, and I do want to talk about this in detail a little bit more, is the rituals, which is a very cool aspect of this new system. Then from 396 to 440, is a whole section on how to play the game. Checks, damage rolls, immunity, weaknesses, resistances, damage types, hit points, healing and dying, hero points, actions, etc. So, and one thing that I've said before, and I maintain this position, is because I'm sitting here, I maintain the position that I believe that the developers of these books, someone somewhere in there, maybe more than one person, has a background in education, because I've got the PhD and I can, I can see my own. And the educational approach to this game and these rules are just they're just primo. I mean, it's really really good, and I appreciate that. I've read quite a few books. I've got a couple back here that it's very clear that the person doesn't know how to teach other people anything, and their rules reflect that misgiving, unfortunately. So let's talk about a few things. The major changes in this book is the elimination of alignment. They eliminated the use of or acknowledgement of alignments in game, like alignments: chaotic, evil, neutral, good, etc. And I've heard arguments on both sides about why alignment is important, and also why it's not. There is a school of thought that there is no such thing as good and evil. There is only malevolence and benevolence. And I kind of subscribe to that school of thought to an extent. I do believe that there is a fairly good amount of actual evil in this world right now. Maybe. But see, it's the subjectivity of it that makes it not a concrete thing. The wolf is very evil to a mother deer, and especially the baby deer. But to the wolf cub, the mother is the wolves make the babies eat first. That's not evil. So, to the deer, the wolf is the devil himself, and anybody out hiking alone in wolf country would probably agree. However, so that makes good and evil subjective. Why am I talking about this? I don't know. It's just an interesting aspect of morality that has always fascinated me. But some would say that evil is not absolute. Only Sith deal in absolutes, which is interesting because a Jedi said that, and that is an absolute statement. So who's the Sith here? But I've played games. More importantly, I have played games that have no acknowledgement of alignment, have no system for alignment, like Traveler, my favorite sci-fi RPG. Traveler has no alignment. D20 Modern doesn't have alignment. I mean, this is not a new concept. But, there are people who are for it and against it. And, evil actions can be considered evil, like, The Thing, for instance. It's just trying to survive, man. It's just trying to get along with itself. But it's very, very obviously pure selfish. It only considers its own survival, and we are but food to it. Not unlike the great white shark. Sharks aren't evil if they're not hungry, which So the point is that they've done away with alignment, and in that, for good or ill, there it is. I think alignment was kind of cool in the game because if you put on like a helmet of alignment change or something that you did change your alignment, then you would have to adjust your behavior accordingly. But that can also be easily simulated by other things that just, behavioral modification from other magical sources. So it really isn't that big a deal. The other thing is with abilities, they don't use the 3 to 18 anymore. It's just ability modifiers that you get from you get that from various sources. We'll go into that in a minute. But the whole thing is I'm kind of against that not having any ability scores, because when you roll up a character, that's what you're rolling up. That's what you start with, the 6 abilities, right? And it's hard to give that up. I don't know if I'm just the old dog with the new trick or what have you, but there it is. And I prefer the ability scores, but I don't think that's just me. I think it's a lot of folks would prefer that. Now, here on page 10, we've got and this is where that educational thing comes in. You've got key terms, which explains, actions and ancestry and armor class and all the way to turns, not to the Arctic turn that says Backstreet Boys. During the course of a round, each creature takes a single turn according to initiative. A creature can typically use up to 3 actions during this turn, and so forth. So it's very explanatory, and I like it when things are explained well. So in the format of rules, it goes through all of the. Here on page 16, it delineates action or feat name, how it's formatted. It goes through the formatting, and I think that's incredibly cool because it tells you exactly how to read the book, which, some don't. For instance, you get, it's got it's got like a symbol, it's got like a legend for the symbols, like a single action, a 2-action activity, and a 3-action activity, and reaction, what all those symbols are. So when you see a spell, for instance, it tells you, it gives you a little symbol saying, oh, well, this, and you can just look right at it with your eyeballs and see exactly what it is. You don't have to look up, oh, how many rounds is that? What is this? It's 5 segments, and there's no guessing. It's just like right there in front of you, so you can see that, and I think that's a wonderful aid, because the whole point of all of these assistances, the whole point of it is to expedite gameplay, right? If it makes the game go faster, if it makes the game go smoother, it's a better game. You can spend more time having fun and less time trying to figure out what the speed factor is of a weapon, which, first edition D&D had that, which is not the optimal for a smooth progression of game mechanics. Then it has a very concise step-by-step set of character creation rules. Well, not rules, but suggestions, guidelines. More of a guideline, And for instance, in step 1, you create a concept. You say, what kind of character do I want to have? And I've always wanted to play this character, whatever, what have you, right? So, ancestry, you choose the ancestry, the background, class, or details. for it. You choose your faith, whether if you worship a god of the game, or if you are atheistic or agnostic or what have you. You choose that there, as opposed to old rules where, and this is one of the downsides of character creation that had to be seriously modified for any kind of I get what I want didness. Is you roll the dice and you take your stats, and if you've got high strength and high constitution, low intelligence and charisma or whatever, and you always wanted to really play a wizard or a priest with a low wisdom, you were kind of boned. So this gives you the power and the choice to play what you want. So it's got a list of ancestries on page 20 and 21 of the dwarf, the elf, the gnome, halfling, human, leshy, and orc, or the versatile heritages of changeling, Nephilim, or a mixed ancestry, right? And I really appreciate, because I have griped about this since the beginning of 3rd edition, I think, is that they made some kind of a weird shift, and I blame Dragonlance for this, where halflings looked like miniature elves, and I absolutely hate that. That pisses me off so bad, because everybody knows that halflings have round ears, they have furry feet, leathery soles. They do not wear shoes because they're just not comfortable. I would imagine with that kind of architecture on your feet that it would be difficult to wear shoes. And they look like children. They look like chubby little children. And that's why they get away with so much, right? So, when they came out with the Kinder, which are just basically miniature elves, then all of the successive Dragonlance took it to, they started copying the Kinder, making halflings look like miniature elves, and that just irritated me to no end. Absolutely hate that. But they get it right. Their halflings are adorable. Even if they're badass, they're adorable little people, and that's the way they were intended to be. Because they will disarm you with their cuteness, and then 1,000 little bitty arrows later, you wish you hadn't approached. Then they've got the humans, the leshy, which are very cool. They're like plant people. They're plant people basically. The example in the book has skin like a sycamore tree, and hair like kudzu or elephant ears, the plant, and it's just really cool. They're nature. They're like nature spirits, which I think that's diggable. And of course, the goblins, which I never cared for. I'm more like Goblin Slayer, the anime Goblin Ka. And of course, the classes are represented: the bard, the cleric, and so forth, and it tells you how to choose them. Then in step 2, it explains that whole how to build or start building your attribute modifiers, because that's what we go with instead of actual ability scores. Everybody starts out with ability modifiers of 0. Then you choose as you choose your character stuff. As you choose your character's components, you begin to add or subtract ability modifiers, or not, just depending on what you choose. So everything adds up to things. Plus, you get a number of, and I believe it's 4. When you roll up your character, you don't roll up your character anymore. You just kind of make it. Which that still kind of leaves me feeling like But you get 4 with the ability modifiers, and I think there is a ability attribute modifier page here. Yeah, it says a first level character can never have any attribute modifiers higher than 4. You get attribute boosts from various things, and so that's what makes you stronger. The fact that you're a fighter makes you stronger, not the fact that you're strong. You should be a fighter, even if you wanted to play a wizard. Now you're a wizard, so you are probably smarter, which I think I like that. I think I like that. I don't like not rolling, but can't have everything, I reckon. Then you choose a class. You finish your attribute modifiers with all of the things that you've chosen added up, right? And then you write down your class details by equipment, calculate your modifiers, and then in step 10, you add the finishing details, right? So that allows you to finish up your character and start playing the game. Now, there is a thing called edicts and anathema, which is something that you can choose. So edicts are behaviors your personal philosophy or code encourages. Nothing to do with alignment, obviously. And anathema are the opposite, actions contrary to your point of view and violations of your personal code. So if you want to play a good wizard, then your anathema would be people who steal, or stealing itself, or cursing even, or whatever you choose to be really against. You can choose that as an anathema. Then there's a list on page 35 to 39 about edicts and anathema. 39. For instance, let's see. Let me go back here. The edicts and anathema listed for the gods are here, and for instance, Urgathoa is so infatuated with the pleasures of the living world, Urgathoa escaped the clutches of death and the afterlife, becoming the first undead. The pallid princess now revels in the sharing of her hedonistic ways and spreading undeath. Slanesh, maybe? Nah, not really. Her edicts become undead upon death, create or protect the undead, sate your appetites. That's her edicts. That's the things that she goes for. That's her behavior. And the anathema, denying your appetites, destroying undead, and sacrificing your life. So those are her edicts and anathema. So it doesn't really have an effect in game rules, but it certainly helps make your character a little bit deeper and a little more well-rounded, more spherical. I mean, it's nice to have a rounded character, but having a spherical one adds an entirely new dimension. So that's a good thing. And so then after you've done that, it goes to leveling up, which leveling up is an interesting concept, and I've had many arguments over the concept of leveling. I like the way they handle it in this because in older versions of D&D and Pathfinder, they player would be like, oh, I get to level up now, so I'm gonna grab a level of cleric, or they get a huge number of experience points and I let them spend them all, use them all, because why not? Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes we're trying to stick to the actual rules where what you don't, if you level up, what's left over is wasted. That's not the case in this book, but I had a guy I was DMing for who said he was going to grab 6 levels of cleric. It was a huge battle. They killed something that they shouldn't have been able to kill, so I rewarded them accordingly. And it was like, he was going to grab 6 levels of cleric, started casting spells, and I'm like, what god are you worshiping? And he didn't know. And which was in that particular setting, that it wasn't a big deal. It's not what we were after, any kind of realism or anything like that. It was just the idea that someone could go up levels in a class without having a trainer or like a god in the case of clerics. So I've always been kind of a stickler for making the if you want to level up as the class that you're trained in, sure, you can do that in the field. That's fine. But if you can't, if you're trying to learn something that you haven't learned before, you almost always have to have someone to teach you or spend extra time in the self training. And some things you just can't train yourself to do very well. That's why it takes longer. So as you get 1,000 experience points, as I said, you level up. You spend 1,000. You take 1,000 XP away from what you had, and then apply that to your new level. Then you gain that level's benefits, the next level's benefits, and that means that if you gain 1,500 experience points from a session or an encounter or what have you, which is quite a bit, then you take away 1,000, you have 500 toward the next level, and so forth. So they roll over. However, if you are trying to, if you can't just, you're not like Amazon shopping for character classes, right? And I dislike that, and because it's not realistic. It's just like the whole thing about applying skills to skill points you get from leveling up to something that you didn't do while you were leveling up. I hacked that Megacorp's mainframe. Therefore, I'm better at lassoing them dogies, right? So it just doesn't apply. It doesn't make sense. So everything it should be logical, which is why I don't enjoy absurd games. I take my gaming very seriously, maybe too much so sometimes. And while we're on the subject of multiclassing, or levels rather, I wanted to bring up multiclassing, which is represented in this book in a unique way, which is called archetypes. It says here on page 215, character concepts come in infinite possibilities, but you might find that the feats and skill choices from a single class aren't sufficient to fully realize your character. Archetypes allow you to expand the scope of your character's class. And what that means is if you are a fighter and you want to take levels in wizard or cleric or what have you, kind of simulating a paladin that they don't have, so you can totally do that if you want. You have to choose an archetype feat, and it's called a dedication. So each archetype's dedication feat represents your character's dedicated effort learning a new set of abilities, making it impossible to split your focus and pursue another archetype at the same time. Important. Once you take a dedication feat, you can't select a different dedication feat until you complete your dedication by taking 2 other feats from your current archetype. You can't retrain a dedication feat as long as you have any other feats of that archetype. So it's stricter than just saying I'm going to grab a couple and go shopping and get the Amazon Prime character class delivery, blah blah blah, which I really don't like that. I mean, it's okay if that's the kind of game you're playing. As always, I mean, this is the overarching rule for everything. Is if that's the way you want to play it, that's fine. It's your game, right? And your group. So as long as everybody's on the same page. So what you can do is you can do like a fighter who wants to become a cleric. For instance, you take the feat 2, which is called it's cleric dedication, which is a feat 2. And it says you cast, you have to have a wisdom modifier of +2, which is equivalent of a 15, 16, or 16, 17. I can't help it. No, 15, 16. Yeah. You cast spells like a cleric. You gain the cast a spell activity. You can prepare 2 common cantrips each day from the divine spell list or any other divine cantrips you have access to. You're trained in the spell attack modifier and spell DC statistics. Your key spellcasting attribute for cleric archetype spells is wisdom, and they are divine cleric spells. Of course, choose a deity. You can't I'm suddenly out of nowhere, I'm a 6th level cleric with no deity. I'm just that faithful in whatever. Silly absurdity. Choose a deity as you would if you were a cleric. You become bound by that deity's anathema and can receive, we talked about anathema, or we will talk about anathema. You can receive that deity's divine sanctification. You become trained in religion, and your deity's associated skill. For each of these skills in which you are already trained, you instead become trained in a skill of your choice. You don't gain any other abilities from your choice of deity. So, with that being said, then you go on to pick other feats for the cleric dedication, or you can hold off. The feats that you choose are your choice, because that's why they call it choosing. And feat 4 is basic dogma. You gain a 1st or 2nd level cleric feat, for instance. Advanced dogma. You gain 1 cleric feat. The purpose of meeting its prerequisites, your cleric level is equal to half your character level, and so forth. So, multiclassing, that strikes me as being somewhat more realistic than just saying, I want to be from Unearthed Arcana and 3.5 rules, which is what we largely play when we're not playing Pathfinder. There is the Unearthed Arcana that has the Gestalt rules, where you just mix all of the abilities of both character classes, like Fighter Mage, and you take the best of, you get each of their abilities, and you take the best of your choices, the best saving throws. It makes for a more powerful character class. It makes for a more powerful character. But it's not for everybody, obviously. And it just depends on how your game is, because sometimes you want ultra powerful characters, which is like the first edition Pathfinder with the Mythic Adventures, which you play mythic characters, which At a level 10 mythic, you just you can't die when you're killed. You come back 24 hours later. So I mean, there's power levels all over the place, all over the place. Rogue dedication. I mean, there's basic dedications for all of all of the classes. So you could totally be a like a rogue with a witch. That could be very cool. So that is that. So it goes over religion quite well, and then we get into the heritage, ancestries, and backgrounds. And this was one of the things that I was talking about earlier about the heritage. For instance, and I'm going to go over the dwarf section, you could be an ancient blooded dwarf. Dwarven heroes of old could shrug off their enemies' magic, and some of that resistance manifests in you. So you've inherited their magic resistance. You get +1 on your saving throws and so forth whenever you need to roll a save. Then you've got the Death Warden dwarf, the Forged dwarf. The Forged dwarf has remarkable adaptation to hot environments because their ancestors literally evolved in the forges. So you have fire resistance equal to half your level, which, that's pretty freaking cool, and so forth. So that's what I was talking about earlier with heritages. And then they have higher level heritages like Telluric Power, 13th level. You channel strength. Wait a minute, that's a feat, right? Yes, that's an ancestry feat. My bad. The March of Minds, a Telluric Power. You channel strength from the earth beneath your feet to pummel your enemies. When making a melee strike against a target who is standing on the same earth or stone surface you are, you gain a circumstance bonus to the damage roll equal to the number of weapon damage dice. So it helps. Every point helps. I can't tell you how many times I've had a battle won or lost on a single point, and you probably have too. And then, of course, it covers the elves, the gnomes, the halflings, the goblins, the halflings. There's a halfling. There's this dude with the cupcakes. Humans. The leshy, which are cool. That's sycamore bark skin. You've got different types of leshy heritages. Cactus, fruit, fungus. Not cactus fruit, but cactus, fruit. Gourd, leaf, lotus, root, and seaweed leshy, which are all very cool. And then, of course, the orcs, which you can't get rid of them orcs, Them orcs is all over the place. And when they get in there, they make it orky. Then the Nephilim, it covers the Nephilim, which are the Aasimar type on page 78. And I keep wanting to call them Cambions, but they're not. They're not Cambions. They're the Aasimar and the... I was just talking about it. What the hell? Tieflings. I make my mind work even though it does not want to. Then with mixed ancestries, they have elves children with people of other ancestries, and the children of their children are called Iovaran, an elven word that refers to a poem about leaves that fall too quickly to the ground. There's actually a Chinese poem. Wait a minute, I wrote that. Never mind. There was a poem that I wrote for one of my Mandarin language professors. And the elven word means, and the leaves don't, they believe in over there in China. They believe that they should stay put to maintain family. And that's the leaves falling too far from the tree, because when you do that, then you have nowhere to go back to when the leaf goes into the ground, basically. So you've got the elven ancestries, and then you got backgrounds, which allow you to customize your character based on their life before adventuring, which is very cool. It used to be profession, right? Acolyte, acrobat, animal, whisperer. Hey, dog, come here. Got a gift. The artisan, the artist, the bandit, the barkeep, and so forth. It goes on for several pages. Teacher. Also musician. Also chef. Also barber. I've I've done a little bit of everything. Minister. I'm an ordained minister, believe that or not. And then it goes over the list of languages over a page, which is enough. It delineates the characters, like the bard. And, you know, that's another thing that makes me angry, when people just think that bards are just horny-ass bastards that want to screw everything in sight. And while that may be true, that is a stereotype that I despise, because if you look back far enough, you find out that the term scop and deerwood from ancient Celtland, that the Scops and the Deerwoods, which was the precursor to the Druid in ancient times, those were the storytellers. And there was much more to bards than just playing the lute and gyrating your hips. The storyteller, I mean, before written word, the stories were everything. That was your history, your oral tradition. That's probably where they got the horny bard from, the oral tradition. But you know, there's a lot more to bards than just their dicks. It pisses me off. When people act like that. Then you got the cleric, and you know, the fighter, and so forth, and it goes on and on. Quite lovelily. Of course, the ranger, the rogue witch. Apparently, there's no paladins, which is fine. I know a lot of people have a hard time playing paladins, but the witch is you command powerful magic, not through study or devotion, but as an agent for an otherworldly patron, the warlock, right? The eldritch blast, purple darts of death. So you know, you make a pact with something over there, and you get magical powers. That is the premise behind the witch, because the more learned folks in the crowd will know that that the warlock is a witch. Witches non-gender. Males and females were witches. It wasn't like a female witch is a witch and a male witch is a warlock. It's quite not that. Then you have the wizard, which is cool. Which is cool. And so forth. So, and it's got a whole section on animal companions. Then it goes into skills, and next to each skill is listed as how many actions that takes, like disarm is an action. And the feint is an action. I'm pretty sure that was the wrong kind of feint. Request, that's an action. Like, can I have that? You gonna eat that? And so forth. So perform is one action. So you play it quick, buddy. Hamlet I'm going to perform Hamlet. To be or not to be. Then it's got all of the skills listed, of course, in great detail. Very simple to understand. Very, very cool. Totally dig it. Then it goes into the equipment, armor, so forth. Very nice illustrations. Then it has the spells, and the spells are they have kind of reimagined, if you will, the nomenclature for said spells. And sorry. They have reimagined the nomenclature for said spells because you've got arcane, which is still arcane, divine, which is still divine, then cult, which is practitioners of the occult traditions seek to understand the unexplainable, categorize the bizarre, and otherwise access the ephemeral in a systematic way. And that is what bards do. Because bards are purveyors of knowledge, much like wizards, but in a completely different and weird way. The primal is basically druidic magic. It's nature magic. So, and then you have the 4 essences of magic, which is matter, spirit, mind, and life, which, a wizard necromancer would cast spells of an arcane life manner. A druidic healer would do the life and primal magic, or bards might do occult mind magic. These are not the festival seating you are after. And then of course spirit. It's probably mostly divine. Divine spirit is probably the thing. Order of the day. And they have a list of spell traits, and it just makes it easier, which I like. I do like that. And of course, it's got the list of spells. Then in the back section, I wanted to talk about rituals, and rituals. Because you've got cantrips, which don't take spell slots, and you can cast them at will as many times a day as you want. Then it's got the different spells that you can cast, and their spells. Focus spells is along the lines of your chosen school of magic, and you get bonuses for that. And then the ritual spell in these rules are. I think it's very cool because a ritual spell, it's just like a recipe, right? It's a recipe that anyone can follow. Anyone can go on to like allrecipes.com, get a recipe for buttermilk biscuits, and get the ingredients, slap them together, and try to make them. And if they turn out good, if you follow the directions well, you got you some biscuits. If not, then you don't have biscuits. Well, the same thing is the way of the ritual. Anyone can cast it if they have the components, they have the time, and they have the this and the that and the other thing, and they put it all together, they can possibly cast a spell. It takes longer because you're following directions, but you can do it. And that gave me an idea for, the idea is not originally mine, but how many movies or stories have you read or seen that someone is trying to like raise this ancient evil from the beyond the grave, and they have to cast this ritual spell, and they're looking through the book and they're trying to gather the components and stuff like that, and the heroes of the story have to stop them before they finish, and it's a pretty classic tale, right? But in order to do that in other game, you'd have to be a wizard or a sorcerer or something with innate magical abilities in order to get that done. Here, it could be like an evil mayor who wants to, or not necessarily evil because there's no alignments, a very selfish, misguided mayor who wants to kill all of his constituents, all of his people in his town, and raise them as undead, so he has the perfect, harmonious, peaceful town with no crime. And he's doing this ritual in the town hall, and or under the town hall maybe. And the adventurers have to find him and stop him before the spell goes off and everybody dies. That's freaking cool, and that gives a lot of room for some neat stuff. And I like that. I like that about playing the game. The whole section on playing the game talks about attacking, rolling checks, damage, modes of play, like exploration versus encounter versus downtime, which is a very cool concept of downtime. You can get so much done, and anytime you're crafting things. It's so hard to craft in the middle of a game when you're adventuring, because there's no calculated downtime. You go from one room to the next or whatever, and downtime isn't a thing that you have. Here you have it, the encounter goes round to round. The exploration goes hour by hour, day by day, and then the downtime goes by days or weeks. However long it takes. And then your characters can say, "Well, I make another bundle of arrows, or I brew this potion or these potions or whatever." They replenish their supplies or invent new things or research or whatever. It gives you a chance to do all that stuff that you wouldn't normally be able to do. So I think that's very cool. So I'm giving it pretty high ranks, pretty high marks. I'm going with 4.5 axes because there's a couple things that I think could have been done better. It's a lot of good things: afflictions, damage, conditions, how to deal with diseases and poisons, and so forth and so on. I mean, it just goes on. It's got a lot of really, really good information on it. And the thing that I think is best about this book is that it presents the information in a very clear and concise manner. Unlike myself sometimes. So yeah, I highly recommend it. If you're following Pathfinder, it's just something you got to go get. If you're new to gaming, this is still a good book to choose because, as I said, it's easy for experienced and newbies all the same. I mean, you can learn this game very easily. Or you can unlearn what you used to know and relearn this one very easily because it's written clearly, concisely. The artwork's great. The content is great. It's just good all the way around. A couple things I didn't like the attributes and the alignment's okay, but I would like to have the option of playing with alignment, which you can always do with homebrew rules and house rules and stuff like that. You can still do it, but they eliminated all the spells that were castable based on alignment, and like alignment change, no alignment, and stuff like that. Those don't exist anymore, which, it depends on your preference as to whether it's as cool as I think it is or not. So, again, Pathfinder, Player Core, $59.99 retail, and 4.5 axes. I give it. I guess I'm getting harsher in my old age, but because I used to give everything 5 axes, and I'm still very positive about it. Don't get me wrong; I don't dislike it at all. I think it's great, but I just detract things from what I detract from. This is how it is. So, on that odd note, I am Dr. Jeff Goins on behalf of the entire cast and crew of the Dwarven Tavern, which right now is me. We wish for you to want for nothing but adventure, and at first I feared it, then I charged. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.